I'm Anne Salter and you're watching International Business Times UK. Well, we're almost at the end of 2012 now, so let's take a look back at some of the big news stories that have happened throughout the world this year. The world of business and politics merged as a global economic crisis took hold. Austerity measures imposed on Greece, Spain, Portugal and Italy meant these countries were dependent on receiving EU funding. And for the first time, there was talk of countries leaving the EU. Millions of residents throughout Europe took to the streets, holding violent protests and strikes, angry at the harsh, near-to-the-bone cost-cutting that the governments have inflicted on them. Britain was not immune either, although the Olympics helped bounce us out of the double-dip recession by September, with a healthy 1% growth, which is far faster than city economists had originally forecast. 2012 was also the year of banking and tax scandals. £1 million fines and individual arrests were made relating to money laundering and LIBOR rate fixing, with Barclays, UBS, Standard Chartered, HSBC and RBS all named and shamed. And the shock departure of longtime Barclays head Bob Diamond came as a big surprise. Rogue traders were caught red-handed and handed prison sentences. And the coffee chain Starbucks was criticised for not paying corporation tax, prompting us Brits to go and get our coffee fix someplace else. On the world stage, Obama got re-elected for a hotly contested second term as US president, and he had to contend with the devastating Hurricane Sandy. Italy was also in the spotlight as the Italian Costa Concordia cruise ship sank, killing 32 people on board. And China saw a new regime change with the election of Xi Jinping. Egyptians joined together to celebrate the election of Mohamed Morsi, the first freely elected president in history. But when he granted himself pharaoh-like political powers, protests raged across the country. And the fierce fighting in Syria between pro-Assad troops and rebels has seen thousands killed, causing massive international condemnation. A US anti-Islam film about the Prophet Muhammad sparked outrage and protests throughout countries in the Muslim world. Simmering resentment between Israel and Gaza resulted in a deadly 8-day war. Africa saw widespread changes of power and government. In Mali and Sudan, coups and faction fighting resulted in bloodshed and uncertainty. Nigeria has been plagued by an insurgency led by the Islamic sect Boko Haram, with widespread bombing and violence against a Christian south. Myanmar, formerly known as Burma, saw the pro-democracy leader Aung San Suu Kyi take her place in Myanmar's parliament, ushering in a historic new political era. But the country also attracted attention for its persecution of the Rohingya by Muslims and the Arakan Buddhists. But for us in the UK, two events will define 2012 for posterity. The Queen's Diamond Jubilee, commemorating her 60 years on the throne, with its 4 days of parties, events and a Thames 1,000 boat flotilla. And of course, the London 2012 Olympic and Paralympic Games. Team GB won a total of 65 medals, including 29 golds. While in the Paralympics, the Paralympic GB squad won 34 golds and 120 medals overall. And after the sporting festivities, the other bit of royal good news came as Kate and William announced they were having a baby. In the world of entertainment and film, we saw another 2 big hits from Great Britain. As James Bond celebrated 50 years of espionage and sexy girls, Skyfall, the latest film, was this year's highest grossing film in the UK and the most successful Bond film ever. And even more sex was to be found in the publishing hit 50 Shades of Grey, quaintly dubbed mummy porn. Tech saw 2012 as the year Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook grew up. They pulled off the biggest IPO in history with a $100 billion plus evaluation by Wall Street. Its membership passed 1 billion and it bought the photo sharing site Instagram. And elsewhere, it was tablets, technology, Google Glass and a Windows 8 launch. And not forgetting the patent wars between the two biggest tech companies, Apple and Samsung. And in the UK, we had scandals and investigations galore. Hundreds of allegations of serial sexual abuse and paedophilia claims came to light about the BBC TV star Jimmy Savile, which led to the BBC being investigated over the scrapping of a TV programme that exposed the star and the naming of others associated with Savile in a BBC Newsnight show, prompting speedy resignations from the Director General George Entwistle and other senior BBC employees. The other media investigation to grab the spotlight was the Leveson inquiry, examining the role of the media cozying up to politicians and the widespread use of phone hacking to get insider information. That then saw the famous News of the World newspaper close and the editor Rebekah Brooks, with others, up on charges. So, as we've seen, 2012 has certainly been an eventful year, and I'm glad to say that the apocalypse predictions by the ancient Mayans seems to have passed us by. So with that in mind, I look forward to seeing you back in 2013. Have a very happy new year.